Thank you everybody for coming tonight for the 2019 Commissioner Candidate Forum. We're thrilled to have you all here, and we're thrilled to have all the candidates from all three groups who have agreed to come and speak before you this evening. I wanted to do a little bit of Miami Beach United business before I turn the keys of the vehicle over to our moderator. So give me just a couple minutes of your time. My name is Tanya Bott. I'm the president of Miami Beach United. We have board members sprinkled throughout the audience. We have current commissioners sprinkled throughout the audience. Please raise your hand if you're a commissioner in the audience.
Raise your hand.
Yay! Thank you for coming. We appreciate your support, and I'm sure the folks in the room would love to have the chance to ask you questions after the event. Welcome to everybody who is here. I want to thank Chris Rollins and his team from the South Beach groups of hotels who have made this venue possible for all of our events, and a little last minute scramble, but it looks like we're all here and ready to go. Who is here? Who is here at a Miami Beach United event for the first time? Can I just see a show of hands? Welcome. To those of you who haven't come before, you came on a good night. We have Marisol Centeno from the League of Women Voters, who is here early with her team to get folks registered. If you have any questions about your registration, or you're new to the city and you need to get registered, they are here if you need to pop out and do that. That's something nonpartisan. Just exercise your right to vote every time. Wanted to also thank Kevin Polito, who is here from the city of Miami Beach. He's a community resource coordinator. There is a wonderful new website, not so new anymore, a couple years old, but it's chock full of information. It can be a little tricky to navigate if you don't know, if you haven't done it before, so he's here to answer any questions. You can sign up for residents' right to know notifications about topics that interest you. Kevin, can you raise your hand so everyone knows how to find you? There he is, so you guys can connect with him after the event. For those of you who know, we are hosting a cleanup as part of the volunteercleanup.org event. It's part of a big national event that's happening from coast to coast on Saturday, so I think some of you have already registered for that. We're super psyched. We'll be hitting up Crab Alley, and there will be other events all around the city, so it's fun to do stuff like that with your neighbors. New members, if anybody is here who is not a member yet and you would like to consider joining, now is a good time. For $25, you support this kind of community education, these sorts of events that are free and open to the public. We record them so that if you're not able to make an event, you can watch it online after the fact. If you register now as a member, you are good through the end of 2020. If you came in, you are, and you didn't sign at the table, whether or not you're a member, I ask you to please just sign in on your way out. Oxymoronic, sign in on your way out, but hopefully you'll take a moment to do that just so we know who is here. Let's see, what else? Some of you may know, it's at the signature, the bottom part of our newsletters, we have a commission scorecard that we instituted in 2018. The 2019 edition will be out very shortly, the next few weeks after the last commission meeting. We are also doing a candidate tracker so that the folks who are on the stage right now and any of their colleagues who, when one of these folks gets elected as your commissioner next year, they will be held accountable for things that were said here today. So that we will publish this after the event and let everyone know here's where they stood on these issues, and then people can kind of check along and see how they've done over the course of their tenure as a commissioner. What else do I have to tell you? For your friends and neighbors who couldn't be here tonight, you can let them know that this is being recorded. You can see right there. Everyone say hi. Oh, come on. Everyone say hi. Much better. Thank you. And so that will be up on the website hopefully by Monday at the latest, hopefully a little bit earlier than that. I would like to invite you to please turn off your phones. No ringing during the discussions. You're welcome to record and share and post, do whatever you want, but we just don't want any interruptions. We have a lot of stuff to get through, and we want to get through it as quickly as possible. We want to also make sure, this is a nonpartisan event. I don't know how many of you know what MBU is all about. We are about residents' rights, and that's our operating, point of operating. That's all we care about. We want to make sure the residents are being heard, and we want to make sure that there's a connection between the residents and City Hall. So we'd like you to hold your clapping for candidate 1, 2, 3, or 4 in any of the groups. Just listen, make your own notes. Feel free to follow up with him or her after the fact, but let's keep this going. So I want to introduce to you the moderators of the event, and then I'll give you a quick rundown of how the event is working, and then we will get cracking. We have 2 moderators tonight and a timekeeper. Adam Travis, right here, is our timekeeper with his able assistant. And they will be holding everybody accountable to short, sweet, succinct answers. I guess the candidates will be responsible for succinct, but short and sweet, for sure. Jorge Gonzalez and Saul Gross are moderating our debate tonight. George, if you don't know who he is it's hard to imagine. He has been on the board of directors for Miami Beach United since 2012. He was the former City of Miami Beach City Manager from 2000 until 2012. He's the longest serving city manager in the history of Miami Beach. He's currently the manager at the Village of Bal Harbour, where he's been since 2013. He's also an adjunct professor at the University of Miami, where he's been teaching political science, local government management since 2010, and he's been a resident of Miami Beach since 2000. So that's George in the blazer. Today is actually George's birthday. Birthday to him unexpectedly at some point during the day. But yes, put on Facebook, there you go. Saul Gross, sitting to George's left, is a co-founder of Miami Beach United, along with Nancy Lehman, who's here as well, and several other folks who are here in the room. The organization was founded in 2012, and Saul was part of the group that founded it. Also, he is a former commissioner of the City of Miami Beach, where he served from 2001 to 2009. He was also the chairman of the Design Review Board. He was the Board of Governors, Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce, excuse me. And we are going to give each candidate an opening question. They will each have a minute to answer that question. The subsequent questions, there will be 4 subsequent questions to each group. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. Each candidate will be given a turn to answer first, and 1 minute to respond again to each question. Candidates will be advised, so that you guys know, candidates will be advised of your time at 45 seconds, and then when time's up at 60 seconds. And we have yellow and red cards. That's what they mean. So the goal is to keep each group to 35 minutes. I know we're starting a little bit late, but it's Miami. We're doing the best we can. The categories of questions that we're going to be covering tonight: governance, land use policy, finance, sustainability, resilience, public safety, residents' quality of life. Again, like I said, all kinds of things that Miami Beach United is really most concerned about. So without further ado, with one more happy birthday to George, I'm going to turn it over to the moderators.
And thank you, Tanya. And while we'll try to adhere to the script, and we'll try to make it interesting as well, so we'll take some liberties as moderators. So welcome everybody, welcome candidates, good luck. As Tanya said, we're going to try to structure this in a certain way, but I think this is kind of like a job interview for you all. You're the hiring officials that will be determining whether you get this job or not. So typical first question in a job interview would be, why are you running for office? What makes you qualified? Why do you think you're the unique candidate that should be selected for this job as a commissioner for Miami Beach? So you have 60 seconds to answer that. We'll start with Michael and work our way through.
Thank you. If this is a job interview, it's a big panel. I think it's called a panel interview when there are this many people. My name is Mike Barano, and thank you all for coming. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. I think it's low voter turnout we're expecting this year. About half of the voters might be here, so that's pretty cool. I served as president of the South of Fifth Neighborhood Association. Got involved with public service in that way. And that was a great experience, helping residents, advocating on behalf of residents. I served for a period of time as president of this organization and did the same thing. So the first part of my life, I come from a business background and I'm a single dad. The first part of my life was about business and raising my son. I'd like the second part of my life to be about public service.
I was laying in bed last night thinking about this question, why do you run for office? It's one of the most difficult questions we have. And when I had to really think about it, here's what I thought. I'm running right now to defeat the rise of the super PAC in Miami Beach, which is completely controlling our commission and resulting in horrible legislation and zoning. For many years, Miami Beach had protections in place under Mayor David Dermer and then Mayor Matty Bauer. All of those protections have been removed. Special interests are completely controlling our commission. I feel like the activist community is sleeping because they're disengaged, because they go into the commission, they're being insulted, they don't feel like they're being heard, and who can compete with super PACs at $800,000, $1.3 million on the Convention Center Hotel for a better living? It's too much, and it's got to stop. Thank you.
Hi, Stephen Miner. So I got involved with local politics, and I realized that many of the residents' concerns were not being addressed, and that's why I got involved. Whether it be safety on the streets and police visibility, whether it be sidewalks being fixed, enhanced street lighting, addressing the homeless issue. And obviously there are a lot more issues than that, but that to me was the initial focus, that residents' concerns front and center need to be addressed. I'm an attorney. My job is I'm an attorney in law enforcement with the Securities and Exchange Commission, with the Division of Enforcement. I work with some large law firms, international law firms before that. And I feel my unique skill set as a negotiator and understanding complex issues and also being able to understand regulation and ordinances will be very useful in dealing with many of the issues regarding development and land use resiliency and many other issues that come up. My wife, I have two small children. I think they're all here. My parents are here, and we live in Miami Beach. It's our city, and I'm very dedicated and passionate about our city.
Thank you, Rob.
Well, I'm in this because I care. I care about you. I care about my neighbors. I care about what you think, what you feel. I care about responding to you. So many times we don't agree with each other. Sometimes we do agree, but I want to hear your thoughts, your feelings, your ideas for a city and where the future is going. That's why I'm in this. I'm an activist. I've lived here now for over 25 years. And I've stood up for different causes that I always was approached for, that I've always responded to. As last cause that I stood up for was during the hurricane. I was about to go to bed. The senior called me because she was a victim of mine. And I went out and I helped. This is what I stand for, and this is what I want to do for my community, to make a difference.
Okay, first question that's substantive. This one for Steve. In the last year, the Miami Beach Commission has deeded public right-of-way to private developers in exchange for a public benefit, but to allow the developer to increase the development rights that they have on their land. So I'm wondering if you think that's a good idea or a bad idea, whether the City of Miami Beach Charter currently gives that right to the commission or gives that right to the voters?
So I think it's a case-by-case basis. In general, I do believe that if on a consistent basis land is deeded, that is probably not an ideal situation. So it is a case-by-case basis. At the same time, At the same time, we recognize that there is certain development that needs to take place, and it's important, but at the same time, there are situations where voters have voted on the FAR, and it appears to be that the will of the voters is not being implemented, that we are actually voting as a commission outside of the voters' will. That is problematic to me, and we need to stick to what the voters vote on. So if we have a voter referendum, it's important not to overstep our bounds. But again, I think it is a case-by-case basis. Some communities do need a little bit of development, and we need to negotiate. And that's part of my skill set as a negotiator in handling complex issues. I've negotiated against some of the best law firms in the country, and I think that would make me qualified to do so in this situation as well.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Same question, Raphael?
Repeat it, please.
Yeah, sure. In the last year, the City Commission has authorized deeding streets in the city of Miami Beach that are adjacent to private property to give the private property owner increased development rights. In one case, for example, on Ocean Terrace, it allows the property owner to build an additional 90,000 feet. And in return, the commission has been getting back a public benefit. So I'm asking you how you come out in the balance. What does the charter of Miami Beach say about it? Do you think it's okay? Do you think that the commission should have the power to do that, or do you think that power should be with the residents?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I believe...
That's why I asked it.
Thank you, sir. I believe that sometimes we have a situation when we have our representatives work together with developers behind closed doors. They try to negotiate and make deals, that are in the best interest of the community. I have realized that in this decade, the developers usually they try to get things done with the commission by offering something in return, and they have done that in a situation where they want, an increased density, or they want any favors. And so we as a community, we need to make sure that we keep the thumbs on our...
Okay, that time is up. Thank you. Now we'll go to Kristen.
I think there's been a gross manipulation of the electorate in terms of FAR. We keep hearing time and again that 80% of the electorate voted in favor of something. Of course, if you spend $1 million and the city spends $200,000 in voter education and there's no counter campaign, of course everybody's going to vote for something because there's no counter argument. I think that the sale of these streets and alleys should go to public referendum. I've seen the public referendums that we're offering right now, and it's random. For one street, one street cost $10 million, and now we're giving away another street for a bioswale. I mean, what's going on here? It's really unfair, and it's a manipulation of our system, and it's just bad zoning. I think that all the sale of any public property at this point, I think all of it has to go to public referendum because I don't trust the way the commission operates at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
So, this is a great question, and I'm very passionate about it. You and I have had some conversations about it. So, in my mind, it ought to be the exception rather than the rule, absolutely. I don't think, based on the legal opinions that I've read, that we violated the charter in the past few years. I don't know what happened before that, but I do serve on the planning board, and some of what we're talking about came before the planning board, and I dug deep into it. And if I thought we were violating the charter, I wouldn't have gone along with it. I think the bottom line is that it has to be about inclusion. It has to be about community consensus. It has to be about how many people is this going to help? Is it for the greater good of the community, or is it for the benefit of one or two individuals or one company? And if we can find a situation where we get a brand new park in exchange, and everybody's okay with that, and we've reached consensus around that idea, and it doesn't violate the charter, I think the charter's pretty clear. And if it needs to go to referendum, it needs to go to referendum. The North Beach Town Center went to referendum.
Okay.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, just one quick follow-up question that's just a simple yes or no question. Would you support putting on the ballot for next year an issue to address this, to make it clear that it is must go to the charter before public land could be sold to a developer, so that the residents make that decision and not the commission? Just yes or no?
I think the charter protects public land well, and our process works well.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Going through my list here, guys, and I'm going to start with Kristen this time. Two different questions, and it applies differently to each to the candidates. But Kristen, as when you were a commissioner, what legislation that you sponsored that got approved while you were commissioner are you most proud of and most happy that you got approved? And to the non-commissioners, aspirants, what recent legislation that the commission has passed that you are most supportive of? Starting with this.
I think it was Miami Beach United's legislation, the residents' right to know. You guys brought me this legislation that said that every single neighborhood association deserved targeted notice. Nobody on the commission wanted to touch it. I picked it up, we put it on the agenda, we worked with the legal department, with Commissioner Samuelian and Mark Needle. Are you here? We worked very hard to pass it, and you know what? We got the votes to pass it. The problem with it is that I don't think the city's following it, because recently I was knocking on a door and I said, did you know what was happening with Ocean Terrace? Nobody's getting noticed about anything, and I have serious questions regarding our processes for noticing the public, because what happens is you get a North Beach yard going up next to you like these ladies did, or you lose your public access to the beach without never having a chance to go to the commission and defend yourself or state your opinion, and it's not right.
Okay, thank you. Same question.
Can you repeat?
Okay, for the other three is what legislation that the commission has passed in the last few years that you are most supportive of, or you would be most advocating for?
Well, I think our city passed a referendum, and that is to keep our entertainment district open until 5 a.m. It's, I think, most important for our character, and I'm very happy that we did. And I will do anything I can to always defend it.
The most important legislation that, in my opinion, that was passed was the Inspector General's office. An independent Inspector General was overwhelmingly voted by the residents, which makes sense. It's something that would keep as a watchdog over our government, which is always a good thing. Municipalities and any government works best as an SEC attorney. We have an Inspector General, and it works great. So that to me is important, and I understand an Inspector General hopefully will be appointed soon. Along those lines, I'm also, part of my platform, I am calling for an end of no-bid contracts. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen, and I believe it is not in a good economic policy. Studies show that the governments pay more when there's not competitive bidding, and they don't get the same quality services. I'm also calling for, as part of my platform, a whistleblowers program that would award people who come forward with government waste and mismanagement. And so those ideas all come together to me. Inspector General, along with the whistleblowers program, and outlawing no-bid contracts.
So I also love the Inspector General, but I'd like to talk about residents' right to know, because I became president of Miami Beach United in the summer of 2017, and residents' right to know had passed with only 4 votes in its first reading, and it did not have the votes to pass on second reading. And so myself, I and a few others on the board went to work and did what I love to do, which is to talk to folks and bring folks together and find compromise. And we got residents' right to know passed with a 7-0 vote. It was a unanimous vote on the commission. And it's one of my most proud accomplishments as president of Miami Beach United. I do agree that we got to do a little more work on its implementation. My idea for residents' right to know is that it flipped the responsibility around about informing. It made informing the responsibility of government. We shouldn't have to say, please, please, please tell me. It's the government's responsibility to let us know something that's going to happen that's going to affect our lives. So I think we got a little more work to do there. I think we are making progress.
Okay, next question. Kristen, There's been a lot of emerging neighborhoods in Miami, Wynwood, Design District, Brickell, and the beach is having to compete much more than it ever used to in the past. What do you think the beach needs to do to attract new restaurants and new shops that are going to other areas to get them to come to the beach in general? How would you approach that?
It's an economic question. The rents here are simply too high, and I can't control market prices. A lot of these properties are being purchased by REITs. They don't care if our storefronts are vacant or not. Now, we're not allowed to levy a vacancy tax because that's the state's purview, but what we can do is probably fine businesses that are vacant until, and have some sort of fine that we can levy. I think that's one thing. I think another thing is we really do need to, there's supposedly there's social construction of the panacea of the convention center hotel, and once we open that, all these businesses will come and everything's going to be perfect. Another thing simply is that people don't want to come here anymore. I work in Kendall in Miami-Dade College, and a woman ran across campus the other day, came up to me, and she said, we don't want to go to Miami Beach anymore, we don't feel safe on Miami Beach anymore. So the fact that we can't control 10 blocks from 5th to 10th Street on Ocean Drive, Washington, and Collins Avenue, it's a real problem. So we need to clean that up too.
Thank you. Actually, let's go to Michael first, and then...
So I think 10 million people want to come here every year, so I think we are still a pretty popular destination. I think we have a lot of work to do to create some balance with the 10 million tourists and our residential quality of life. As far as the business and attracting new businesses, I'd like to work with our new economic development department. I mean, I think we've got an opportunity there to really target small businesses, to make things easier for small businesses, to reduce regulations on small businesses, to have a concierge to help small businesses get through quickly. I've talked to so many small business owners, and they try to open their business, and it takes 2 years to get open, and by the time they've used up all their working capital by the time they get open. So this is a real deep rooted problem in Miami Beach, and I was a small business owner for many years. I understand how this works, and I'd like to put those really kind of pragmatic business skills to work in Miami Beach.
Okay, thank you. Steve?
We need to make the process easier for new businesses and small businesses to open here. I think it's a pretty universal recognition by everyone, including the commission, that it is difficult to open businesses here. It takes a long time. The permitting process takes an extremely long time. Our vacant rate is 7%, which is higher than our nearby local municipalities. That is not a good statistic. We need to lower that. And then one example is last year when we had a budget shortfall, the commission actually voted to increase outdoor zoning prices for restaurants and bars. To me, that was the wrong approach to take. We need to help our small businesses, not add taxes to them. Accountability within the city. We should have specific timelines for when they can, when permitting should be responded to and approved. And as well as police visibility and safety. That is an important issue. We've had some negative press between various high-profile incidents. Spring break, we need to correct that and make this a welcoming place for residents and tourists.
Okay, Tom. Raphael?
Yes, I believe that we are a world tourist capital. And I believe that one of our greatest challenges is to remain a world tourist capital. And now, as we said, we have competition from over the bridge. Now it's not just us, we have Wynwood, Brickell, downtown, all these design district, these new areas that people can go to. So therefore I think it also provides us with an opportunity. It provides us with an opportunity to establish ourselves, to establish Miami Beach as a center for arts, culture, and entertainment. That's what we want to be known for. We want to be known for this arts, culture, and entertainment industry that will attract a sophisticated, a very good part of tourism that we need in our city. Hand in hand with that, it's to go that we need to lower the cost of doing business in Miami Beach. We see, unfortunately, every day we have retail businesses and restaurants leaving the beach because it's easier for them to make more money and to operate just across the bridge. So we need to work on that too.
Time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's start with Rav. I think everybody accepts that we're kind of at the tip of the spear on climate change and the effects that sea level rise and so forth is affecting us. But by the same token, a lot of residents are concerned with the city's approach to addressing this concern. Recognizing we're not all engineers here, what are the kinds of things that the city had done that you support, and what are the things that you would do differently?
Yeah, honestly spoken, I've realized that this process or policies that go on have been politicized too much. It's a perfect election kind of topic that the candidates like to talk about. It's very simple. I believe in climate change, and I believe we need to act. Act. It's either you act or you don't act. You can have committees studying the issue, not acting, or you act. I'm not an engineer, but I know that we have recommendations on the table. I know that there are things that we have done in the past. We have raised streets. We need to see where these streets actually need to be raised. That's neighborhoods that do need it, others they don't. We need to see what has worked and what has not. But the only thing that I can stand for is that I want to act, I want to move forward, and I want to fight climate change. I want to fight sea level rise.
Thank you. Stephen.
I do agree we need to be proactive. I do not agree with the current city policy, which is to raise every road 3.7 feet NAVD. That is not a policy I agree with. The proactive parts, though, that I think we are doing well are the pumps, trying to implement one-way valves, using heavily engineered pipes, better drainage. So I think we're doing a lot of good things. It's just the policy itself of raising every road I have concerns with. Not every road is the same. It doesn't also differentiate between some roads that do flood, some roads that don't flood, commercial districts, residential districts. I think we need to make that differentiation when we make these when we're making these decisions. Also, the green and blue infrastructure, which Jacobs Engineering is addressing, I think that's very good what the city is doing. These are natural solutions that we can implement. It's also healthier for the quality of water when we utilize parks and bioswales, and I think that's a direction the city is going in, and I agree with it.
Thank you. Krista?
This is such a complex, multifaceted problem that I have spent years now studying and sitting in meetings and learning about it. I think we're evolving. I think up until right now, we rushed through the first few projects, and we use certain neighborhoods as guinea pigs. But I do think that we now know that each of these pumps need to have a corresponding injection well. And that's expensive, and we don't have the money to do all of that. So while we can plan and we can do these blue and green initiatives, what we need to do at this point in time is go out and we're gonna have to raise money at the state and the county, and everybody's gonna have to, and the federal government, they're all gonna have to chip in, because this problem is bigger than what the taxpayers of Miami Beach can handle.
So this is a fascinating and super compelling and important issue that I really love to dig into. I'm a big fan of the ULI report, which was published in 2018. It recommends basically an integrated water management plan, a whole set of tools that we can use. In road raising is one tool in our tool belt, but there are many others. So, and I like that approach. I also like that Jacobs Engineering is not only studying the issue more deeply, but engaged with us as a community. There was a meeting last night that was very well attended. I'm sure some of you were there. I believe they're going to do a fine job in helping us out with what comes next. But I believe the ULI as a core, as an idea, is a good roadmap for the next 2 to 5 years, and I believe we ought to embrace it. Embrace that holistic approach, and I think we have been proactive, and I think we are heading in the right direction. I think we're studying the issue, and we're doing a good job.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I guess this would be for Michael. I don't think I asked you first. Given the challenges that we face in the entertainment district and Ocean Drive and Washington Avenue, what solutions might you have that we might be able to better manage the entertainment district? And you can talk generally about that, but tell me specifically, would you have supported Mayor Levine's initiative a couple of years ago to roll back the hours that alcohol was served from 5 a.m., I think it was, to 2 a.m. or not? Or, that's one possible way of dealing with it? What ideas do you have, and did you support that idea?
So I call this, I published this on this platform piece on my website. I call it Public Safety and Sustainable Tourism. I believe that a lot of what we have going on around high impact situations is not a sustainable situation for us as a community. We've got some significant work to do. And you know, the police, last time I spoke to them, were projecting a 20% increase in crowds coming up this coming March versus even last year. And the crowds were breathtaking last year. I was out there for several nights, and I'm concerned that it's not a sustainable situation.
But tell us specifically what your idea.
My core idea around this is 24/7, 365 enforcement of all of our laws. In all of our laws, big and small. I think for whatever reason, and I don't want to throw any rocks at the police department, but for whatever reason, we have an anything goes permissive kind of a reputation now, and a lot of folks come here for that reason, and I think we got to change that.
Okay, thank you. Let's just go down the road. Kristen?
We spend so much time, money, resource, conversation on Ocean Drive, these 10 blocks. And I was speaking with a hotel owner from New York the other day who's, developing his hotel, and he's like, you guys can't clean up 10 blocks. And I agree with him. We have new police leadership now, and the police officers need to get out of their cars onto the streets. If you walk down Ocean Drive right now, you're going to be offered drugs several times. That, for me, is ineffective policing. But it's not just a question of the crowd on Ocean Drive. We also have very low room rates right now, and we keep building hotel rooms, so I don't know how we plan on raising room rates when we keep adding more. So do we want quality? Do we want quantity? We have $50 hotel rooms. We're attracting a certain level of guests that goes to Ocean Drive and misbehaves. So we have an image problem, we have a law enforcement problem, and it's very complex. And you know what? We need to make sure that these police officers get out of their cars and onto the streets.
Okay, thank you. Stephen?
To me, it's changing a little bit of the culture. For example, Memorial Day weekend used to be a big issue here, and then we implemented the Air and Sea show, which has been a fabulous success, and it's actually basically solved a lot of the issues for that weekend. Which leads me to believe that if we implement some kind of full-time event, literally 365 a year, that maybe we can work our way out of that problem that way. For example, in Coney Island, in Santa Monica, in different areas, they have actually things on the beaches for families, whether it be a little bit of amusement park, or arcades, sort of events that everyone can enjoy, and it doesn't have to be at 2 o'clock in the morning, it can be during the day. So I think that may be one way that we can sort of change the culture, fill up our hotels, and I do agree that police enforcement of our laws is important, and we should. Sometimes it may require a warning at first, depending on how low level the crime is. I don't think we want to arrest everybody, but I don't believe we're going to enforce our way out of this, even though I'm pro enforcement. We need.
Okay, thank you. Raphael.
Okay, first of all, I want to say, I myself was last week on Ocean Drive, and I was there for quite a while, but nobody offered any drugs to me. I don't know why. Nobody did. I believe that, as I said, our greatest challenge is to remain a tourist capital, and we need to reinvent our city. As I said, to become that center for arts, music, and entertainment. I actually have been entertaining the idea to close Ocean Drive to traffic, make it a pedestrian only zone. And change the whole image of Ocean Drive. With lights and increase the park, have people there, residents. And regarding our police, I believe actually they've been doing a good job to the extent that they've been reaching out to our community. There's a block party going on, I think, like next week or so. I'll be attending that. There's been breakfast with cops. They're out there. I know them by name now. I think so you do. So, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. We've all had polls taken, and we've all answered polls, so this is a standard poll question. I'm going to start with Michael and go across. Do you feel Miami Beach is on the right track or the wrong track? Yes, no?
I think we're on the right track. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff happening. I think the GO bonds is great. Inspector General.
Okay, that's it. Just right track, wrong track.
But I think we got some issues to deal with.
Pass it on. Right track, wrong track. Simple question.
Wrong track.
Steve.
It's a little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
I think we're more on the right track.
Right. Okay. Okay, we have no more prepared questions. What we'd like to do is offer each of you in reverse order as when we started, 45 seconds for a closing statement. So we'll start with Rafael.
Okay, everybody, 45 seconds. I'm in this because I care about my community and I want to make a difference. But this election is about more than making a positive difference for my community. This election, as some of you know, is about my integrity as a person, as a human being. It was in 2017 that I almost won an election. Did extremely well, like 1 week before the end of this election cycle. There was this candidate that came out with vicious lies, you know, vicious, unhinged lies to bring my campaign down and destroy my campaign.
Okay, that's it, Rob. Thank you. 45 seconds.
That's it.
Yes, Steve, next.
Sit down.
No, please, please. Entitled to say what you want. Thank you.
My campaign has been focused on two things: residents first, and addressing residents' concerns, and good governance and transparent government. So when it comes to residents' concerns, what I hear, and actually there's a city survey that backs this up, is police visibility and community policing, better street lighting at night. People want to feel safe when they walk out at night, fixing our streets, addressing the homeless issue, and also addressing the flooding and resiliency issues that we've discussed a little bit tonight. And also transparency, good governance. The Inspector General's office is a great start. Ending the no bid contracts, whistleblower programs. It will save a lot of money for our city that we can then use to spend on us, the residents.
Listen, we live in the greatest city in the world. I love our community. I look at this group of people, and I know most of you personally. We either fought on an initiative together, we worked towards something together, and I know that we can turn this around and take back our commission from these special interests that are current controlling everything. There is no one sitting up here that has the legislative experience, historical knowledge, academic expertise, and love of the community like I do. I'm from here. I raised my children here. And what bothers me right now is this lack of just caring for the people that come into the commission. Like, we're not hearing the people. And I know that we can change that. It's not just about electing me, though. You need to go out and you need to elect a few other independent people so we can reverse this direction. Thank you.
So, I have a proven track record. This is a residents advocacy group. I have a proven track record advocating on behalf of residents. I'm respected at City Hall. I'm liked at City Hall. People will take my phone calls. I can talk with them. I have a little mission statement on really everything I publish, and at the bottom of that mission statement it says advocate and problem solver. I have the experience, and I'm ready to go to work on behalf of the residents of Miami Beach, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you.
You guys did a good job holding it together for Group 4. Let's see if we can do it again for Group 5. If you're staying for Group 5, please take your seats and end your conversations with your neighbors. We're ready to begin. Thank you.
Okay, we're pretty much on time, which is a rarity in Miami Beach these days. If you could keep your conversation down at this point, we'd like to start with the second group, with Group 5. And we're going to start off with an opening statement, and please tell us why residents should vote for you, or if you're an incumbent, tell us why they should vote for your re-election. And we'll start right at the end here, and introduce yourself when you make your statement. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Welsh, and I'm running for Commissioner Group 5. Miami Beach's first millennial candidate. Very exciting. I bike ride around Miami Beach every day, down through Lincoln Road, down through Ocean Drive. I live in a historic neighborhood, and so I'm ground zero of everything that happens. And I have a great pulse of what's going on the beach. And you know, I'm at every event all the time. I'm involved right now with the Human Rights Committee. I was involved in the Anti-Bullying Task Force. I was a Peace Corps volunteer, served in South Africa. All my life has been about service, and I have all this great, amazing love and energy to give, and I want to give it to Miami Beach. And so when I look around Miami Beach, I see opportunity. I see opportunity everywhere. And sometimes we're just so thinking about the past. We're thinking about all this past squabbling. We're thinking about all the stuff that could have been done, should have been done, but you know what we're not doing? We're not looking into the future. So let's think about everything we do. Let's think about how it affects my generation, and I'm happy to represent that.
All right, thank you. Time is up. Just for the panel's edification, we have two pieces of colored construction paper here. The yellow sheet means 45 seconds have gone by, you have 15 seconds left, and then the red or pink sheet, depending on how colorblind you are, indicates that your minute to answer the question is over. So pay attention to that. Yeah.
Can I get Sasha back? I think I pressed the Sasha more. I hope your dad's paying you a lot.
I believe in child labor.
All right, Ricky, you're
There you go. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I am Commissioner Ricky Ariola. I've had the great privilege and honor to serve you for the past 4 years. I am running for re-election to continue the work that we have been doing together as a community for the last 4 years. I know many of you. I've worked with you on a lot of projects, and I think if you look at what's happening in Miami Beach, there's not an inch of this city from south to North Beach that has not had a tremendous impact over the past 4 years, whether it's historic preservation, which during my administration and under my leadership, we passed the largest local historic designation in the city's history, to improving our parks, to improving public safety, to improving our environment, our resiliency efforts. We've gotten involved in helping our local schools. There's so much more to be done. It's exciting for me, and I want to continue the work to see all of the great initiatives we started 4 years ago all the way through. And with your help, I will do that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Raquel Pacheco. I am also a candidate for Group 5. I've been a 15-year resident of Miami Beach in the Flamingo Park area, and I decided to get involved in local politics and run for public office because I'm concerned with the direction that some of our leadership is taking us on. Personally, my own neighborhood has been affected by commercial changes that are not in tune with what we as residents want. I have a young child, a son who attends South Point Elementary School. I served in the U.S. military for 6 years, and I have a degree in urban studies from the University of Connecticut. What I hope to bring to the dais is I want to be the voice of citizens. I am concerned with our quality of life issues. I'm concerned with the decisions that are made by our government that affect us directly. And I want to make sure that our residents, those in my neighborhood, as well as other underserved neighborhoods like North Beach, have adequate representation and have a voice in City Hall. Thank you.
Is that George Clooney? I'm Stephen Cohen. Candidly, I'm nervous. I'm not a seasoned politician or even an experienced public speaker. My candidacy is rooted in my love for our city and my desire to right the blatant mismanagement of do-nothing politicians in our City Hall. The other candidates in the contest are good people and running for the right reasons, but I have spent 3 years going to city commission meetings, board meetings, neighborhood associations, and even breakfast clubs to get the pulse of the city. I believe I give us the best chance to win in this election, and I'm even putting my own money to do it. We are on the brink of financial crisis brought on by a bloated budget and a failing real estate market. No one wants to invest in us, whether it be big business, small business, or even a family looking to buy a home. Our headlines are riddled with beach closures and violent crime. I'd hate to sound cliche, but it's a time to change. I will bring that change. I'm Stephen Cohen. I'm here to listen to you, Gail, Frank, Daniel, the residents. I want to represent the residents.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Let's carry on with that, Steve. So one of the most important roles of a commissioner is to approve an annual budget. And we all know that property values have been plateauing and stabilizing, and our expenses continue to grow. So what specific ideas do you want to bring forward as a commissioner to help make sure that our balanced budgets each year?
Okay, so first off, this is where I focus. First thing I would do is I would go to every single department, and I would look at every department and figure out where we can streamline the department. So for instance, the parking department has a retail store on the bottom, and I would go in there and watch it, they're all on Instagram the whole time. So we need to streamline the budget. Another example is a city manager who was recently given a contract by Ricky Ariola. The contract had a retroactive bonus of $30,000. He's paid 30% more than the city manager of Miami, who has 4 times the population and double the employees. The amount of debt that we put onto the city, first of all, you get a GO bond. You don't put a $4 million TV for a GO bond. It's not a good idea. Raise your hand if you get a mortgage to get a TV in your house. It doesn't make sense. For instance, when we did the GO bond, the city of Houston had a $2.5 billion GO bond. They had state and federal matching funds for each project. Our project, as per Eric Carpenter to the GO bond committee, was all best guesses. Every single project is best guesses. We can no longer guess.
Thank you so much. Raquel?
I would like to start by looking at our internal government structure and figure out where we can cut down on some of these frivolous spending. I think that we do a lot in terms of spending when it comes to public safety for some of these high-impact weekends. I think that we need to revisit that, try to change our image and our branding, cut down on the expenses associated with law enforcement to deal with high-impact weekends and things of that nature. And I do agree that we do have a lot of top-heavy individuals in our government. We should look at that and see what we can cut loose. We can cut down on those expenses.
Well, as chairman of the city's finance committee for the past 4 years, I have balanced the budget 4 times in a row, and this year's no exception. So when we say we have a budget deficit, that's a misnomer. That's at first cut, George, you know, as a former city manager, you prepare an initial budget and then you come out with numbers either plus or minus, and then you balance the budget. Talking about fiscal discipline, I'm the one who has led for hiring freezes. I have led for department downsizing. I have led for no COLA increases. I have initiated zero-based budgeting in our city departments to impose fiscal discipline. And with respect to the GO bond, that is something that 70% of our taxpayers voted on themselves to tax themselves, because that's an investment in our future. Because unless you invest in the future, your assets start declining in value. So the residents have spoken on how this city is doing. Loud and clear, 70% believe the city is headed in the right direction, and they voted with their pocketbooks.
I always learned that the best way to deal with a budget is to, think big. We can scramble, we can find ways to cut, but what are we doing to bring in more money? This right here is an opportunity to be a hustler and bring in businesses to our economy. Businesses are tech, businesses that can, and that, if we're aggressive in bringing that in, all kinds of problems can solve itself, because we'll have a larger tax base, etc. But let me tell you something. Right now, businesses are coming to Florida. Tech companies, Fortune 500 companies, companies that talk about cloud computing, and companies that are invest in social media and virtual technology. They're coming, but where are they going? They're not coming here. They're going to Melbourne, they're going to Tampa, they're going to Orlando, but they're not coming here. So let's be aggressive in bringing in tech, business, real jobs. I tell you this, if you bring in good paying jobs, you bring in the residents to a better tax base. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's stay with this financial vein, especially because Ricky is the head of the Finance Committee. And I'll ask this question to you. Everyone talked a little bit about how to cut expenses in the last go-around. I think that my sense is the Commission has an orientation to increasing revenue, because you can't always cut expenses. And the question is, how do you increase revenue? So tell me whether you think approving additional development giving developers additional rights to build so that they will invest in the community is a good way to try and increase the tax base, or not? What's your feeling on that? I'll start with Rick.
You're a businessman, so there's two sides of the ledger, revenues and expenses, right? So you have to do both in order to have a properly balanced budget. So you increase revenue through a lot of things, right? You increase it through our resort taxes, so you can do that through events to bring tourism here. It's a meaningful part of our budget. Through property taxes that increase with property values. Our property values have been going up every single year for the past decade, since the Great Recession. It has slowed down because the double-digit rebound that we experienced earlier this decade is not sustainable, but our property values continue to go up, not down. And in order to keep them going up, we have to make the investments that we did with the GEO bond. With respect to the new development, that is part of the equation. It can clearly get out of hand. So you have to be very strategic in the kind of new development you want. I have supported new development, I have fought against new development. But in the totality of how you balance a budget, it is property values and resort taxes, and that's where you sort of try to get the top line growth.
Okay, thank you. Raquel?
I agree that there's definitely you need to reach a balance between property value and resort taxes. I agree that we have to promote responsible development, and I agree that we have to, again, cut down on frivolous spending and expenditures related to crime prevention, that we can, if we are creative about it, we can change that. We can change our image, we can draw a better crowd, we can attract a much more...
Well, let me be more specific, because this is getting too general. There's a valid question in November about whether the FAR, for example, on Alton Road should be increased by 0.5. So tell me, you know, if you think that's a good idea or not, and why you think it's on the ballot.
My position on FAR is very clear, and it's been clear from the day I joined this campaign. It is clear to me that the FAR should be voted on by referendum. It is part of the city charter, and that has not been happening. And until...
This question is out for a referendum question.
Yes.
So I'm asking you, do you think
I'm
that's...
glad that it is, and I think that in every instance that it should be. I think that when it comes to public property, when it comes to public land, if the charter calls for it to be voted on by referendum, then that's what we need to do. And if we can't stick to that rule, then we need to close the loophole that allows our leadership to give away our public land.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, can you address the specific question? Are you in favor of a 0.5 increase in FAR on Alton Road? Or
I am zero in favor of that. This city does not have an income problem. We've got a spending problem. We're like an NFL football player who makes $10 million a year, but spends $11 million, okay? That's our problem. Then let's talk about development. We've grown the budget so big that we have to build these buildings to the moon just to keep going. We're like a hamster wheel, running and running. How many more can we build? It's getting crazy. You understand? This is getting crazy. The budget's crazy. The law of large numbers. First of all, you know why you're not getting the right towards? You have a crime problem. How do I know you have a crime problem? Because people are getting their phones stolen. We have a Facebook group running around like vigilantes, all thinking they're Batman, trying to save the country. It's getting crazy. So I'm telling you, it is time to fix the crime, get the budget in order. Otherwise, we're going to go broke, and me and all the people that are young are going to be paying for it. And it's getting crazy. How close is the commission to developers? Ricky,
okay, sorry, time is up.
I'll give it to you later.
Jonathan, I want to...
You know, there was a time back in college when I worked alongside the League of Conservation Voters, and I really, from that experience, preservation and protection of our environment and public lands have always been on the forefront of a lot of decisions, many decisions I make. So when it comes to, say, selling off public land, respect public land. Public land has history. There's a lot there. There's not much left of it. Let's protect what we got. So like Mr. Cohen said, I agree, we got a spending problem. I remember there was remember that proposed sign for $320,000 over by the Julia Tuttle to bring in additional, remember that? Anyway, that's money. That's money that we could, that's opportunity cost money that we could have spent someplace else. I mean, my goodness, we could buy thousands of gallons of paint and paint Ocean Drive together, and there we go, it's done. So every time we we need to really, with every decision we make, let's not use our public lands as a way to pay for things. We can do better.
Okay, time is up. Just a yes or no question as the exit question on this. Will you vote personally in favor of or against the 0.5 FAR increase on Alton Road? Each person. Jonathan?
No.
Ricky?
Yes, it's for new office products, so you know the answer to that.
Okay. No, well, for whatever it is.
It's not a fair question.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No chance.
Okay, thank you.
Let's start with Raquel this time. Raquel, are the current measures to protect historic homes on Miami Beach adequate? If yes, why? If no, why not? And what would you do to correct it?
I don't think that there are adequate measures to protect historic property. I live in a historic neighborhood in an Art Deco building. I really value historic property. I have a degree in urban studies. I understand the value of maintaining our historic property. It's part of our identity, and I'm pretty scared that if we don't put enough effort and enough resources into that we're going to lose our identity. I'm not happy with the mega development projects. I think that we actually need to stop those and shift our focus towards towards historic preservation and also towards flood mitigation. Those are my biggest concerns for our city. So the short answer to that is no. I don't think that there's enough, and I think we need to invest more resources, more money, more time, and more energy into historic preservation.
Is there a specific proposal that you would want to propose?
Nothing comes to mind at this point, but I am particularly concerned with what's in mind for the North Beach area and what's being proposed in that region in terms of the overall development of the area.
Thank you. Let's go to John.
I love historic preservation. It motivates me. I love history. I love the environment. And I also live in a historic district, and I lived in a building that needed a lot of improvement at one time. I think we've all been there if we've ever lived in that area for a while. But you know, I think the best way to protect our historic neighborhoods is to really bring attention to its beauty and remember how important it is. I mean, we talk about how much our Deco community is important. I mean, there's nothing like it else in the world. It's on the historical register for a reason. So what kind of love are we really given to it? And you know what, our alleyways, imagine if we looked at our
Let's bring you
alleyways.
to the question. Are the laws today adequate? Yes or no? And if no, what would you do to make them more adequate?
No, because there is a lot of opportunities for us to invest, reinvigorate our alleyways, and that requires perhaps there would be some pushback in that. And I want to, that would be an obstacle, but if there's a will, there's a way.
Thank you. Ricky?
I think we have a pretty good toolbox when it comes to historic preservation. We've got a really strong historic preservation board. We've got some great civic organizations like MBU, the MDPL. We're very active in taking care of our historic assets. And I'm the only one up here, and I think I'm the only one in any of the races who actually has a track record of actually being for historic preservation. I sponsored and shepherded through the largest local historic designation in Miami Beach history. I also imposed a moratorium on the Tatum Waterway to protect those assets while we're crafting legislation. I'm currently working to prevent the demolition by neglect of the Deauville Hotel. I'm currently working to preserve the International Inn in North Beach. So I think when it comes to historic preservation, my track record speaks for itself, and we have a very adequate toolbox.
What about for homes?
Homes is a tricky issue, right? Because you get into, so homes are, for most people, their largest personal nest egg, right? So when you start tampering with people's homes, you start tampering with their financial wealth. And so there, it's a little bit different. And I think we've got some pretty good tools. There, but that's a little bit different than when you're talking about commercial buildings.
Steve?
First, let's talk about Ricky's track record. Do you guys remember the log cabin? It doesn't exist anymore. And not only that, when you put your house for sale, you need to get a deposit. We got no deposit from the person who was from the North Beach Yard, and they ended up leaving us. So now we have no log cabin and no North Beach Yard. That's a double zero. Okay, secondly, let's talk about historic preservation for homes. We need to help the homeowners do this. So I'm in agreement. If we can incentivize them, if we can help them lift the property up, there's many ways to do it to keep preservation. And the only thing that I'm a little nervous about is contributing buildings. Contributing buildings, some of them are not functional. They don't have AC, you have to walk up. I've spoken to a top preservationist. He is willing to work on the contributing buildings if we keep the same FAR and the same height. And also, what worries me is that some of our commissioners, like Ricky Arriola, are so close with developers, they know their food allergies. Mango. During the South Beach Mango Fest, he knew our top food allergies. Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to the issue of sea level rise, since that's obviously a very big issue for everybody in Miami Beach, both short-term and long-term. So let's start with Stephen. And Stephen, can you tell us if you think that Miami Beach Commission in the past 5 years or so has been doing the right thing in response to sea level rise? If so, what do you think they've done right? And if not, what would you do differently?
I would probably do the whole thing differently. First of all, I would definitely have asked the experts before I spent $400 million on pumps. So the ULA came in after. And also, I would make sure, the ULA said to us as a toolbox. So what we need to do is uniform seawalls. We don't have uniform seawalls. We need to have more trees. 70% of our green space is golf courses. And the Normandy Isle golf course does not retain water. So that's another thing. Secondly, let's go back to the geo.
One second, I just have to interrupt you because of your comment before this, and you said that you were against the geo bond. You know that the geo bond includes a tremendous amount of money for trees that you were just talking about, and the item immediately before that, what was the one that you said before that?
The way that it was done is the way I don't like it. So
I understand, but
the geo bond,
the two things you just mentioned are both in the geo bond. So
no, uniform seawalls are not in the geo bond.
Yes, there's a tremendous amount of money in the geo bond for building the seawalls on city property.
On city property, but that doesn't matter. If you don't have uniform seawalls across the whole place, it doesn't matter.
So
that's the way you all explain it to us, sir.
Okay, so would you advocate for public dollars to be spent for private property owners?
I think that we can work it within the property tax, correct? Or you're going to crush these people. It's your choice to tell them to get them to all leave. So I recently bought on a Clay Drive, and the homeowner ended up having to leave because they put $400 million in the water and sewer. He can't afford the water and sewer. And the bills, that's why, the insurance. We need to help these homeowners. That's how I believe. Instead of giving $67 million to Lincoln Road.
Okay, but just to be clear, so you're suggesting that the city spend public dollars to improve private property owners'
I am
seawalls?
stating that the city can put it in the property tax and can also help them by doing, they can do it by putting in the property tax and giving them a loan. These people can't afford it.
All right.
But the other point is, if you don't do uniform seawalls, it doesn't matter. One, it's open, the whole
Okay,
thing's
I
fine.
understand. Same question, Raquel.
Well, I want to start off by commending the city and its leadership for trying to address the sea level rise issues. And I think that the efforts that have been made thus far have been made with the information that was available at the time. But I do think they're short-sighted. I'm completely opposed to the street rising initiatives. I think that I don't need a scientific study to tell me that it just simply doesn't work. We're creating pools for collection, water rain collection for out of businesses and out of homes. We're creating collection pools for rainwater. I was on Crescent Avenue recently when the king tide was active right before our last Hurricane Dorian, and I witnessed the bays flowing into the streets and creating massive rivers. I think the city needs to make it a priority to repair those city-owned walls and implement them wherever else we can, wherever it makes sense to prevent flooding. My biggest concern is flood mitigation. I think that we need to bring in the experts. We need to start pretending that we know what we're talking about. We need to bring in climate experts. I'm very popular with the Dutch solution, some of you might know, which is incorporates planning
Thank you.
flood mitigation.
Next, Ricky.
Yeah, look, climate change is no longer an existential threat, it's a real threat. Miami Beach is to be commended for our efforts. We're a tiny little community that tackling this global problem, and the world is looking at us. There's very few cities worldwide that are as bold as we have been, and you know, we're doing everything we can to address it. We have hired and consulted with every academic institution, Columbia, Harvard University, every great civic engineer available. You know, we've got more studies than someone can read in a year, okay? And I think we have done a lot of good things, and we've made some mistakes, but we're gonna iterate on this. Just like any innovative process, it's iterative, right? I think where I live, Sunset Harbor, where we did raise the streets, has been a phenomenal success. You talk to anybody who lives there, they say that it is far better today than it was 5 years ago. Blue and green infrastructure is going to be the next phase of our investment.
Okay, thank you.
I think I saw on Facebook on World Economic Forum recently that Jakarta is sinking and millions of people are leaving that city right now. And you know why millions of people are leaving that city? Is because they didn't plan ahead. They didn't do what was necessary, they didn't plan, they weren't bold, and as a result, this is what's happening to that city. It's real, the data is there, you'll see it, Jakarta's flooding. What's interesting about Miami Beach is our history is so unique. I mean, a lot of our land isn't real. A lot of it was built by the Army Corps of Engineers. I mean, look at a lot of our pipes. A lot of our stuff was done in the 1930s, Madone. So we have a lot to work with here. But we did learn a lot. Right now the city, it does have a sound plan. I mean, they did work with the experts, the Urban Land Institute, and they worked with Columbia University, and they did their research, and now they're telling us something. You have to raise the land, it has to get done, and you have to be really aggressive with pumping. That has to be done too. That's the advice that we got. But I think there's some exploration. Look at the blue-green. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Ricky this time. Ricky, what major piece of legislation that you yourself sponsored, that you're most proud of?
So I had the good opportunity of hearing this question before I came up here. It's a great question. I'm going to say the GEO-bond, and I'm going to say the GEO-bond because I shepherded that through. I helped all the budget meetings, went through the whole process, and then sponsored it, and ultimately went to the voters. And why is that the most important piece of legislation to me? Because that is a generational decision. That is something that is going to pay off for Sasha and for all the kids that we have in our families. That is going to be decades and decades of investment in our parks, in our public infrastructure, in our public safety. So that's how I answer that question.
Thank you. For the others, starting with Raquel. Let's go to Raquel. If elected, what would be the first piece of legislation you would propose?
Jeez, that's a question I wasn't exactly prepared for. I think my first focus would have to deal with flood mitigation issues. I would propose that we stop the mega development and shift our resources and our energy towards flood mitigation issues. I'm very proud that Miami Beach recently passed legislation, banning plastic straws, and I think that's a great step. But I really think that our focus should be on waste reduction. We are one of the top world destinations for tourism and entertainment, and for that reason I think that we create a lot of waste and a lot of garbage, and we have a responsibility to our environment, to our children, and to ourselves to implement policies and laws that help us to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So I would aim my energy and my attention towards legislation that would focus on those particular issues.
Okay, thank you.
I think it was in 2016, I was with Daniel Seraldo, and between 2013 to 2017, the City Commission gave 13 height increases to developers. So what I would do is I would say, if you're a developer and you want to build to the moon, you need to let the public vote, because we're not going to let you build to the moon. So we have developers that are getting away with everything, lobbies. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen. It's becoming shameful. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. These developers are not even developers. They're developers/lobbyists. I call them developers. So they spend half their time at City Hall trying to lobby for more floors, more height. I mean, so that's what it would do. For me, 100%. And also the city manager needs to have an annual review. And he's not doing a good job. You need to look for a new city manager. We can't be paying him like LeBron James because he's not LeBron James. We need to look for a new city manager. Thank you.
to the low-lying fruit. You know, if in office, I want to have a good win. I want to have something that is really tangible, measurable, and I would like to really focus on our brand. I think a lot of people don't understand marketing, and it comes at huge opportunity cost. If you really talk to people about how our Instagram is doing, how many impressions we're getting on Facebook and Snapchat, and really how is our SEO ranking right now, every day we should walk into our office as officials and have a marketing dashboard right in front of us. How do we look to the world? Is our best foot forward? Is it really? How aggressive are we in that? So the first thing I would do is get a big task force together to really look at this, press Control, Alt, Delete on what we're doing, because we all know that we can do better, and we need to bring that kind of marketing element to what we do.
Okay, thank you so much. At this point, we're towards the end, so we'll start with Steve for 45 seconds closing comments.
So spending 3 years watching this city, it reminds me of a movie I watched. It's called Defiance. And it was about Tuvia Belsky and the Belsky brothers who saved all of these Jews during the Holocaust, and they brought them into the forest. And the one thing that they did besides saving the Jews is they had community. This city has no sense of community. It's really sad. I feel like we're two sides and we're always fighting with each other. And especially in running in this election, I have a bully the whole time. Bully me every single night. Not only they bully me, they bully my friends. They bully my friends' friends. This is not politics. I'm just asking, when is this going to change in our city where we treat each other well and we're not bullies? We need to be a city of good people all the time, not some of the time.
Thank you.
So I've mentioned before that I've lived here for 15 years, and I've lived in the Flamingo Park area of South Beach, and I have sat by idly for 10 years and watched developers and take commercial interests take over my neighborhood. I have to disagree that we don't have a strong community. I think we have an extremely strong community filled with very intelligent, very outspoken individuals, and my job and my role as your commissioner will be to take every single one of your considerations and apply it somehow, some way, into incorporating laws and changes that will effectively and positively impact all of us. I have a child in the public school system, I have a home, and I have a business. I have a military background, I respect the chain of command, I respect following procedure, and I vow to be the voice of all residents from Miami Beach. Thank you.
It's been my great honor and privilege to serve you for the past 4 years. I am not somebody who's running on negativity and who's saying the sky is falling. Quite the opposite. The reason I am running for re-election is because I think Miami Beach is a wonderful place to live. I think it's one of the greatest places in the country to live. And I think over the next 4 years, if we continue doing what we've been doing, we are going to be one of the top 10 cities to live in America, no doubt about it. If you look from south to mid to North Beach and truly look at what's happening, you can see it. You can see beautiful parks coming up out of nowhere. Convention Center Hotel, 500 Alton, Maurice Gibb Park's going to be redone. The Par 3, all the great stuff that's happening in North Beach. We're completing the beach walk. We're completing the bay walk. We're dealing with mass transit in a serious way. We have a trolley system that moves 14,000 people a day for free. That didn't exist 5 years ago. We're dealing with resiliency. We're investing and doubling down in the arts.
Thank you.
You know, when I served in Peace Corps, my country director said, everything that you do, every initiative that you tackle, do it so that the end result, you create something that's sustainable. Let's think about sustainability in everything that we do. Therefore, because everything keeps working after, but today was our opportunity of the city to read our speech. So you know what, I'm gonna give my speech of why I'm running. Okay. It is time for a new narrative for Miami Beach. A narrative where residents are more than just getting by, but are thriving. We need to be aggressive in attracting high-value tech jobs. We can be the Silicon Valley of the South if we choose to make it that way. A new narrative with a visual appeal of our historic neighborhoods are preserved and improved block by block. A narrative where Miami Beach has the opportunity.
Thank you. 45 seconds.
We'll talk later.
You'll see it on TV. Thank you so much. Let's give them all a round of applause.
Wrap up your conversation so we can keep on track. Folks in the back, I'm now targeting you directly. If you are here for Group 6, please take a seat and wrap up your conversation so we may begin. Okay, we have everybody here. We have moderators, we have candidates. I think we're good to go.
Okay, everybody, we are trying to stick to our time schedule. If everybody could quiet down and take your seats, this will be the third and final group. I guess in a way we're all lucky that there was no race in the mayor's race, otherwise we would have had 4 in the evening, which we would have been here a long time. Okay, so we're going to start off, and we'll start with Adrian. Tell us why you're running for office and why residents should consider voting for you.
You know, they always say they save the best for last, so thank you guys all for staying here and having us here to speak. My name is Jorge Gonzalez. I'm your homegrown candidate, raised, educated, employed, and now second-generation small business owner. I have kids in the public school system. I grew up in these streets. I know these streets. I am Miami Beach, the definition by every standard. You should vote for me because I bring transparency, accountability to the commission. I'm going to bring your voice to the commission. I'm going to be the guy that everybody can have access to and can always reach out to whenever there's a problem. I see beauty within the beach at every area of Miami Beach. I'm ready to be your commissioner, so please, vote for me.
My name is Mohammed Islam. I am a candidate for the Group 6. I'm a professional civil engineer. In my professional life, I did a lot of construction work. I specialize in the seawall drainage system, and also some specialized in some civil work. My concern is to improve our city quality, city work, and city and liaison with the residents and the teamwork. So as a city commissioner, I will do my level best to work, and I have 3 children. I'm also U.S. notary public. I'm multilingual. I can speak like 6 languages, so I can speak with several different. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Richardson, and I am your former state representative serving in Tallahassee for 6 years. I had the great pleasure of winning my election in August of 2012. I didn't have a general election, was declared the winner on August 14th, and served in Tallahassee for 6 years. I'm running for the City Commission because public service is in my heart. I ran a very successful small consulting business. I'm a certified public accountant, but I didn't do traditional accounting work. I'm a specialist in procurement and government contracts. I started my career as a Pentagon auditor and went on to do forensic work, and then started my own firm doing forensic work. So that background helped me a great deal in Tallahassee, and I know it's going to help me as I serve the community here in Miami Beach. Thank you very much.
Good evening to all. My name is Blake Young, and I'm running for Miami Beach Commissioner. I'm the president. Well, first off, I'm a 14-year resident of the city. A lot of people think I just got here, but I've been here for 14 years. I'm the president of the Regatta Condominium Association on Indian Creek. I'm the past president of the Alliage Condominium Association on West Avenue, and I'm also a licensed community association manager. So as you can see, I do have a passion for the community. I am involved. The communities I live in trust me with their affairs. They trust me to make their lives better and to deal with their qualities of life. One key issue about my campaign is I do not accept donations from anybody of any sort. So that means no special interest, no big money. residents are my primary focus. I do understand that residents and business have a symbiotic relationship, but I do feel that residents are not getting proper representation on the beach, and this was a stab at doing so and starting with a clean slate and basically saying I want to represent the residents free of any donations and free of any special interest, and that's why I'm here.
David, what would you say is, in your opinion, the greatest single threat to Miami Beach and the greatest single opportunity for Miami Beach?
So, first of all, I'm not homegrown as some of the other candidates. I moved here in 1995 and got a place, and I love it. And so I choose to live here because it is so fabulous. I think the largest issue that we're facing is this climate change sustainability issue, because it affects our entire community and the future of our community. So I very much believe that we have to address this issue in a very serious way. I think that if the mortgage industry, the insurance industry, the real estate industry believes that we are not taking this issue seriously, it will greatly affect our property values and it will affect our economic outcomes. So I really feel like that is the largest issue that we're facing right now, if I had to name just one. Thank you.
Here is the thing is global warming, sea level rise. I made some articles to City of Miami Beach about the seawall and the drainage system. And actually we have to see, look at the sea level, like a RL from the ground, from the sea to ground level is 4.5, and the lower down level is 2.5. I believe that the city have some program. They get some program within 2 years program, $100 million project. From the beach, they're going to raise the road surface 2 feet from the existing level. Plus, they're going to install some heavy pump in mid-beach area, Lagos and this area. So I'm interested to do some share of my experience, my expertise to the city and improve our city quality standard. Thank you.
George, can you repeat the question, please? What, in your opinion, is the city's greatest opportunity or greatest threat to its success?
I would say right now the greatest threat is that our residents are leaving us at mass transit speed. They don't feel comfortable, they don't feel safe. We're not staying ahead of the curve with many levels of resiliency. There's many things that we still need to do. The residents, unfortunately, we can make Miami Beach as great as it could be, but it doesn't mean anything if everybody leaves this town. I believe that's the biggest problem right now, keeping our residents here.
Okay. And Blake?
Threat and opportunity, or just threat? Choice. I have to choose. Okay, I have to choose. Okay, I think our biggest threat is the erosion of our image across the country. It's all rooted in a lot of our safety issues. If you take a look at the violence that continues to show its face on Miami Beach, from South Beach all the way to North Beach. We have had a good reputation all around this world and around the country for being a safe, great vacationing place, but unfortunately over time that has eroded. That question was pitched to me at the Chamber of Commerce and asking me what we can do about that. What we can do about it is take the hard steps to do the policing and security that we need. I also believe there's an opportunity in North Beach for North Beach development, proper North Beach development, where we could actually have a place where the commercial residents aren't all boarded up, and we have more commercial activity in that particular area. And I do believe that North Beach is a big opportunity for us, and I would like to see that improve.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about resident input into what the commission does. I think in the 25 years I've been here, I've never heard anybody sit on the dais and who didn't say that they were all in favor of getting resident input. But if you look at the last 4 commissions that we've had, 5 commissions, I think that the pendulum has swung back and forth quite a bit, from a lot of resident input to the point where people felt there was some paralysis by analysis, to swifter action with maybe less resident input. And I'd like to know where you see how you would like the commission to be if you were to get elected, and what you would do to make that happen. We'll start with Adrian.
So I think right now, it is very important that we get input from our community. Bottom line is, we have our specialist in every neighborhood that explains to our commission, and if our commission does not have a pulse on what's going on with every resident, how can they make a proper decision that will impact so many in Miami Beach? I think it's beyond important that the commission has open ears, does not have meetings in back rooms, and everybody is on board that's a resident.
Right, but I'm not asking you to sing the benefits of getting resident input. I think that's a given. What I'm asking you is look at the last several commissions and tell me, how you think they did and which one would you emulate of the last 4? What would you do differently? I'm putting you on the spot, that's my job.
One of the things that I would say, the commission, that's a hard one. I would say, for the most part, I would say it was, I don't know what year it would have been, but I was actually a kid when we were resurfacing Miami Beach, and I guess it would have been, the mayor would have been, I believe, Dermer, and that regime going on, was they understood the importance of small mom and pop shops. They understood that without small mom and pop shops, we don't collect resort taxes, we don't have an industry, we don't have a city that, at the end of the day, feeds off of everything.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Blake.
Yes, I have done quite a number of surveying with the residents. I've started on 87th and I've gone down to 5th. So I certainly value the residents' input, and I think the commission should as well. Now, I have spoken to a lot of the residents that feel they aren't given the opportunity to speak in the meetings. They are intimidated in the meetings, and often the meetings are held at inconvenient times. And so I do feel that the commission could be more accommodating to the residents in terms of scheduling, in terms of decorum, and in terms of general engagement, like I've done myself.
So would you recommend that the commission meet at night rather than during the day, or what would that look like?
I personally would like to see them in the evening, if at all possible. I know that the residents all work, and I'm assuming all the commissioners work as well too. I feel that for the critical issues, that we certainly could get more of these in the evening, and I think it would be beneficial for all times, everybody's time concerned.
Okay, thank you.
So, the banks figured out many, many years ago that if they open on Saturday morning, they could actually get their customers to come to the bank, right? Because they used to just do Monday through Friday. So I am all in favor of offering variable time for people to come and be heard. For 6 years in Tallahassee, I had an open door policy. I never refused anyone a meeting, and it did not matter if somebody had given me money or not given me money. If somebody wanted to speak with me, they got in to see me. And if they saw me here at home, they probably got a lot more time with me because the schedule was very tight in the Capitol. But everyone was welcome into my office, and that's the same type of office I'll have here in Miami Beach. I oftentimes hear that a couple of people have told me they don't want any tourism here, and I have to say, well, we're a tourism town. And the really issue is that we have to find the proper balance between the residents, the tourism, and the development. There has to be a proper balance, and everybody has to be listened to. And if you are looking for a place where there is no tourism, that is not Miami Beach.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Mohammed?
We are a resident, we have this huge...
Mohammed, just keep the mic close to your mouth so everybody can hear you.
Sorry. We are resident, we facing a lot of problem in our local government, like a city issue. So we need to be addressing our problem, which I am facing, We pay a lot of taxes, our utility bill is too high. We cannot, we are paying a lot of things, but apparently we don't get satisfactory service. So in order to do this, as an engineer, I know what we have to do, and plus I can do some work with what is our issue, because I'm homeowner, I'm business owner, I know what kind of facing we are. So we need to be address this kind of things, and hopefully if I can do a lot of things, I have some idea, I have some plan. So if you elect, and then we can work together like a teamwork. Thank you.
I think that's it for this question. So I'd like to start with Blake. And Blake, the city welcomes and sometimes receives an influx of visitors, major events, weekends, and sometimes it's programmed, sometimes it's not. But it seems that the city has concluded that programming, producing concerts, events, or otherwise is the solution to try to control and manage those crowds. Do you agree, disagree? If not, what would you do differently?
I agree it's a part of the solution. Certainly having events that bring peace-loving people to our city is always a positive thing, and if we can program that, that would be awesome. But we always know that the police element also needs to be there. If you take a look at Ocean Drive, it's very similar to Bourbon Street. And if you've ever been down Bourbon Street, there's police on every corner. And I would like to see a higher police presence there as well, just to give us the sense of security, because if you go in a position where you actually need help, unfortunately, you have to yell help to other people that are around you. Very seldom are there police available that could actually clear that. So I think that would be another thing that I would certainly deal with in conjunction with reprogramming. But I am in support of programming and having new events here that would be positive for the city and bring positive people, positive results.
Okay.
So a lot of people enjoy coming here. We have a lot of programs. What I don't like hearing is when somebody says they want to program something in an effort to push people out, because for me that sounds like we are being selective about who's welcome in our city. So I don't like that expression. Everyone's welcome in Miami Beach as long as you follow our laws. There is a lot of programming, and I know that some residents, and sometimes myself, want to just have the beach to ourselves occasionally, you know? Just to be able to enjoy it and not have so much programming. But I think we have to be very mindful about the programming. For example, the Air and Space, the show that has been successful. What I would like to do though is try to add more activities to it that would keep people here in town. For example, I would like to look into having an airman and airwoman, you know, some sort of a gala or ball where we can encourage people from all over the country to come here for 2 or 3 days and stay here and enjoy it and pay fill our hotels. So that's one thing that I want to look at. Thank you.
Thank you.
My concern is city of Miami is one of the world-class city. A lot of people, they come here for visit, tourist and tourism. We have to improve our tourism sector to improve some attraction. And our basic concern is to improve the quality of our city service and liaison with the resident and city like a teamwork, and we can be improved. So we have to find out which way we can proceed on and get an attraction and some sort of improve of the system, you know, system update to, because some of the North Beach area is so neglected and lot of things to do, but they're improving, but it's not enough. So we got to do it on much better way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, times have changed with social media giving the power to very little to get the message worldwide and basically say Miami Beach is having a massive party on one given weekend that's not programmed. That has been our deficiency. I strongly believe that we need to have proper programming every weekend. You know, the example of the Air and Sea show was a prime example. They should turn that into a fleet week, which really would set the precedence and kind of what the base of that weekend is all about. But there's a lot of great weekends, there's a lot of great venues, there's a lot of great events worldwide, from Symphony in the Park. I know now they're doing symphonies on Ocean Drive. many things like that. You have programming, it controls the audience and gives you a handle on what's coming to your town. More importantly, the police department doesn't get caught with their pants down. They know what's coming, they can prepare, and they won't scare their locals, the community, and the people coming here. They're prepared. So programming is definitely a must.
Okay, thank you. The amount of traffic coming to the beach in the morning and leaving the beach at the end of the day has increased exponentially in the last 7 years or so. Talk to me a little bit about your feeling about mass transit, connecting Miami and Miami Beach, since people on the mainland work here and people who live here work in the mainland. Are you in favor of a connection across the bay, and if so, what kind of connection? Let's start with Mohammed.
Actually, the traffic system is very bad, especially in North Beach area in the turning point of the Navarro. There is a huge time we have to spend to turn around this way or that way. So we have to have some traffic like a overpass or bypass bridge or tunnel or something that the highway traffic can pass that way. So we need to pay attention about the traffic system, especially an Alton Road. Sometimes they get to the 95. They are in really very congested, and traffic is very congested. So we cannot increase our aisle, but we can improve some diversion road or bridge flyover. We can be underground tunnel. A lot of things we can do as an engineer. This is my suggestion, so we can do more.
Okay, time is up. David?
Thank you. Traffic is a huge problem in Miami Beach, and one of the first initiatives I did as a state representative was I got the Alton Road in South Beach, the program, the plan reopened, which is really never done, but I pushed on FDOT. And if you remember, the initial plans had no medians there. It was less walkable and so forth. So very much a problem. I very much support a bay link. I lived in DC many, many years ago when the people in Georgetown didn't want a metro stop in Georgetown because they didn't want that kind of riffraff coming in. I think that is absolutely wrong. We want a bay link. We want to bring it over as economically as possible. I am not in favor of dumping people off at 5th Street and letting them look for other modes of transportation. I think it has to go at least around to the convention, and eventually I would like to see it loop all the way around to 195 in a long-term plan.
And so you're talking about some kind of rail, or just be a little more specific?
Some kind of rail would be something that I would want to look at in the most economical way. It's never going to be self-sustained, just like our roads are not. You know, we're taxpayers and we build roads all over the state. We have a transportation system, and that needs to be part of our transportation system.
Okay, thank you. Blake?
Yes, I'm for some sort of a link from, I believe, from the airport to my Mount Sinai. I believe that the line's already set up for that, and it would bring us there. I don't like the fact that some of these light rail situations don't seem to involve the airport. I want to make sure the airport is involved, because we have airport traffic consistently. Everybody talks about this being a tourist town. We need to address that transportation mode. So I certainly think that would be nice to have an airport link all the way into Miami Beach, seeing it terminate at Mount Sinai.
And not South Beach, is that what you're saying?
No, not South Beach, no,
Okay.
Mount Sinai.
Thank you. Adrian?
Traffic is definitely the main problem in our city. Our transportation system is not adequate for the amount of residents and tourists we have year-round bursting at the seams. I am in favor of some form of mass transit system to bring people primarily, as we have a $500 million convention center. We have a new convention center hotel. The business traveler does not want to rent cars, does not want to use Uber. They want to do a train system that works efficiently. Based on Miami-Dade Transit system, the plans that they've recently had, I believe 5 different plans. The most favorable one I saw was a monorail system that actually comes through the causeway that will be raised, so it, most importantly, does not take a lane of traffic with a bus, because most of the other ones that are taking 1 out of 3 lanes off the causeway.
So are you referring to the Genting proposal with the monorail?
No, let's not be confusing with us paying money to a casino to put a rail system, no.
Okay.
Miami-Dade Transit proposed in the Miami City Ballet, actually not Miami City Ballet, New World Symphony building about a mass transit system will be a monorail system that would go through the causeway before the Genting group
Are
tagged
you talking
onto
about like a Metro Mover or?
like a Metro Mover, People Mover, something like that, that would go straight down to Fifth Street, down Washington, to the convention center, and move back.
Okay. No questions from me. Thank you. Thank you. Let's start with David. David, if elected, what would be the first piece of legislation you propose?
So I very much want to spend the time on the sustainability issue. I think the city has to move forward because we cannot give the impression to the, as I said, the insurance and the real estate and the mortgage industries that we're not serious about this. We need to well, when Jacobs Engineering puts out their report in December, I'm going to read it, and I'm going to be looking to move something myself or with others to address those issues. I know one of the task orders they were given is to prioritize communities. I don't think raising roads in every community is going to be the right answer, but I think they're going to come back and tell us that raising roads in some communities will be the answer.
Thank you. Blake.
The laws, the main law I would like to start up with is a super speeder / reckless driving law for Miami Beach. I have seen the reckless driving and the speeding on this beach for decades, and it has not gotten better. We've all talked about it, and we all continue to talk about it. And what happens is it's the same driver, and it's the same car, it's the same driver, but actually it's not. It's a different driver, it's a different one, but the same problem. And what it comes down to is I think that we need to really, number one, enforce our laws, and come up with some strict laws on these super speeder laws, because what it comes down to is this is a pedestrian-first city, correct? So if we have a pedestrian-first city, we certainly should want our traffic to move through at a level where pedestrians are safe. There's been numerous fatalities all across the city, and they continue to rack up. With the lack of bike lanes and the lack of proper policing, in my opinion, we are in that is the reason for that. I think that if you take a look, if you drive up to Ball Harbor, you'll notice that nobody speeds through that area. That's because it's enforced. And I think that we should also do that in Miami. Thank you.
Our city have a program that I mentioned earlier. They have a program they begin shortly. They're going to raise the road level surface 2 feet from the existing level. It is a huge volume of budget, around $100 million budget. But I don't think so. It is a good solution. But they have some consultant. They did it. But we have to be improve the system. But I don't know.
So what would be your proposal?
My proposal, we have to be a road surface has to be uniform, uniform way, like from downstream, upstream to downstream, like a sloping, and drainage system, like the side of the edge of the road has to be clean, and has to be clean and go straight to the drain line and go to the downstream in the catchment area. That's the way. Thank you.
Andrew?
Well, being a small generation, small business owner trying to survive in this community, I would say the first thing I would love to see in this community is a legacy program that preserves the fiber of what we're all about, the small mom and pop shops, to work with private businesses, private owners, and community properties from city-owned properties to give incentives to allow the small mom and pop shops to survive in this community, to allow the pop-ups, the new young chefs, the new artists, and so forth, to give them options in our community. But that is right now is what's dying and disappearing from our community, our city.
Okay, last question for me. I'd like to go back to the question I started with the first group, which is that the city has been selling public roads to adjacent private property owners and giving an easement back in order to increase the size of the development and the adjacent site. So I'm wondering if you think that's a good practice, and do you think that our current charter permits that? And who should have the say on that, the elected officials or the residents? I'll start with Adrian and we'll just go down.
I'm currently not in favor of the Alton Road height increases that complete to be, it's becoming a New York City of South Beach. I believe the residents have the opportunities and should be involved in saying, yes, we believe it, or no. At the end of the day, developers come and go. At the end of the day, they build and they sell and they cash on and they move on. As residents, this is our home. This is our hometown. We want to make sure that we preserve that. And frankly, everybody that lives in this town should have a say, a vote, a voice on the commission to say, hey guys, I don't want this monster development, or hey, I think it makes sense for the community.
I think our resident and our community with like a coordination with the city's official to make a plan to how to do this, resolve this problem or issue. So one after another. As an engineer, I can have some plan. I can be addressing to the city. Actually, I submitted some articles about this, about some drainage system, sea wall, and some part of, I'm also board member of the Sustainability Resiliency Committee. So I try my level best in my professional side. Besides that, my professional side, I try to work in other issues also. So I love to say something for our small business owner, and they are facing a lot of problem. The system is not good.
Okay, thank you. Time is up. David?
Thank you, and I think the question really goes to the Ocean Terrace situation that just happened. That's probably why you're asking the question. So, I'm not a lawyer, but I ask tough questions. I've asked lawyers. They told me, and not the lawyers involved with the development, but they've told me that it didn't violate the charter. But if enough people feel like there is a loophole, then we should put that question on the referendum and let the voters decide what they want to do. In part, what we're doing right now is looking to elect someone that can best represent the community. You know, in Tallahassee, I was elected, and I voted probably more than 500 times every year on different bills, yes or no. So that's what you get elected to do. And if the people don't think that you're going to be a good representative and you're not going to do a good job, then they're going to vote for the other guy. So we can't put every issue on a referendum. But on this point, if there needs to be a clarification in the law, let's put it on the referendum and let the people decide.
Of course we should have a referendum on that. That's a slam dunk. I mean, it comes down to the simple fact that, you know, the people put all these commissioners, all these positions we're going, you guys vote us in. And you guys are the ones that want us here to represent your interests. And if your interest says you don't want something in your neighborhood, I think you have a right to voice your opinion on that. So like I've always said, you guys put us in office, you guys make the decisions here, and we should always have a good ear to what you guys want to do with your community. So when I come back to that, I certainly would, in regards to Ocean Terrace, yeah, that's supposed to be legal, but I certainly would have put it up to a referendum for the residents, because what could that hurt? What are we afraid to find out? Maybe they don't want it? I mean, really. So when it comes down to, if we all feel so good, it's about our community, it's so good for our community, it's going to be great for our community, it ought to be sellable, and we ought to be able to get that through a referendum. And that's my opinion on that.
Okay, so just in a closing question, just tell me, each of you, how would you personally vote if that were out to referendum? Should the voters have the final say on selling city land to increase the size of development in exchange for a public benefit, presumably? Or should that decision be made by the commission? How would you vote? Just a one-word answer. You could, yeah, Adrian. Oh, sorry.
What I mean, I believe that I would vote no. I believe the residents should have a decision. It's your town.
That's all right. We don't have a lot of time. I'm just curious which way you would vote on that referendum question.
Wait a minute. He said he would vote no.
No, I think he was saying he would vote in favor of the residents having to make the decision rather than the commission.
Yes, the residents should have the final decision.
Okay.
Is it a conclusion, 45 seconds?
No, this is just a yes or no
Of
question.
course, residents have to decide to, like a voting system, you know?
Okay,
So-
David?
I would support a referendum to change if it relates to the FAR. I'm not in favor of putting everything on a referendum.
No, this is just...
So, specific to that, I would vote in favor if it were specific to that issue on the referendum.
So you would vote in favor of what?
Of giving the voters, the residents,
Right, but
the
what I'm asking you is how would you vote if you had the choice?
I just said I would vote.
No, you would want to give the residents, but how would you vote? Would you vote on the referendum?
I just said I would vote, yes.
Okay.
My personal vote.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking? That's
Yeah.
Yeah, I would vote.
So you would say that the residents should
I would
have
say
the power?
if it's specific to FAR, I wouldn't say on every piece of land, because we might want to do a land swap with the school board, right?
Right, we're talking, it's not technically a FAR increase because they're saying that the size of the parcel's bigger and it's the same FAR just applied to a bigger parcel.
But that's the
It's just
intent, that's
kind of-
why it was done.
That's right, it says or by any other means in the charter.
Right.
Okay.
The residents make that choice. I already said that. Right before referendum.
Okay, let's, starting with Blake, let's do the 45 seconds closing statements. So,
Okay, guys, as I've explained, I'm the president of my building, past president of another building, so I have communal experience. I'll put my communal experience up against any of these candidates at the table. And then when you take a look at my business experience, that also excels as well. In my business, I've covered over 1,000 businesses in hundreds of different industries. I also have a keen understanding of convention business, and we all are so concerned about the convention and how that's going to be filled up. I probably spent over a year of my life in Vegas at different conventions, from the SEMA show, to the water quality show, to the electronic show, to the car wash show. You name a show, I've been to it. And I certainly believe that I will offer great opportunity for this city in attracting good shows to fill up that convention center. Because right now, that would be an awesome way to generate some revenue that we don't currently have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for having us here tonight. I think my background makes me uniquely qualified to be a commissioner here. As a 34-year-old CPA in the state of Florida, forensic auditor, that experience with the budget helped me a great deal in Tallahassee, and I know it's going to help me right here. I am definitely going to be the budget guy. We didn't have questions on the budget in this round, but there are issues with spending, there are issues with revenue, and I want to tackle those issues. I am not afraid of tackling big issues. I spent my career solving problems, big, nasty, ugly problems. I went to Tallahassee, I took on prison reform. People said, why would you do that, David? You're never going to get a political contribution. You're never going to get a vote. Why would you do it? You take on the big issues because it's the right thing to do, and I'll take on the big issues right here in Miami Beach. Thank you.
My point is, as an engineer, taxpayer money has to be used in proper way. There is an example, Miami Beach made a seawall in Indian Creek Road. It's a default seawall. I had a meeting with the public works director and other associate. I asked him why it is like that. And I have some idea, I was sharing with him. I said, why don't you say, oh, we need more money. But if you don't do the proper way, if you do something like that, is all the money goes just like a order. So as an engineer, I want to be your commissioner, and I'm going to face all kind of issue we're going to address to the resident and our voters. Thank you.
Thank you.
My number is 160.
Is everybody still awake? Okay, I'm gonna make this real simple. I'm the guy that's been here all my life. I know what part of the past, I'm part of the present, I'm part of the future. I want to be your next Miami Beach Commissioner. What we need is a new breath of fresh air. We need someone that's a parent in the school. We need someone that is a small business owner. We need someone that doesn't just wake up and play in South Beach. We want someone that is all in Miami Beach. You read what the definition of Miami Beach, this is what you're looking at. I love you guys. I want you guys to support me. I'm Jorge Gonzalez, Group 6, remember 160, and I want to be you next Miami Beach Commissioner, and more importantly, earn your trust. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's give it all around of applause as well. Thank you. That's the third group. This is all important. Remember to vote on November 5th.